Hi, and welcome back to Jonesy Chats Wrestling. Thank you for clicking the video. We're back again this week, and we discussed last night's Smackdown. I'm joined by my regular co-host, Steve from SCW. It's a privilege for me to have you on the channel again, Steve. How are you today?
Yeah, thanks for having us on as always. It's always great to be here. We're on the fast lane on the road to Wrestlemania. And finally we got some matches for that show we can talk about through Smackdown this week.
Definitely. Show plan for today, as always, going to cover Smackdown. Got an update regarding Wrestlemania, another rumoured legend scheduled to come back. Also, final thoughts of the AEW Mystery Man. That'll be covered as well at the end of the video. But no, thank you for watching and checking it out. So let's kind of get into it. So Smackdown this week, obviously coming into sort of last week's work, we obviously had Daniel Bryan facing Jey Uso in the main event. What were your kind of opening thoughts of Smackdown before we kind of get into the show? Let's start things a bit different this week.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, like, are you on about obviously the main event of the show, or just the fact of just
the general gist of kind of the show, really, as a general feel, sort of going into this week?
Yeah, well, obviously we knew of a couple of matches going, like you said there, Daniel Bryan and Jey Uso was one of them going in the steel cage match, which was built from the Talking Smack the week before. I kind of felt that this was guaranteed that we were going to get Daniel Bryan at the pay-per-view going against Roman Reigns. It felt a foregone conclusion. I love the way that it was booked last week because of the fact that we could have got that tag team match and it was a way that was built around it, but they just used it to do another week's worth of TV. So I was sort of umming and ahhing because I don't see the point of Fastlane. I never have. It's not to be rude. It's just a pay-per-view that I think is not needed on the calendar. So when I look at it, I kind of felt that, yes, we're going to build towards it, but it then leaves such little time for Edge and Roman Reigns building to WrestleMania. So I must admit, for the match itself, I was looking forward to it, but for the story side of it, I've been a bit hit and miss.
Definitely. I was looking forward to kind of seeing it from an in-ring perspective. I knew it would be a good match. As I said, it's just a filler going on the road to Fastlane, as you said, but let's get to the show then. So SmackDown obviously starts up. We've got Daniel Bryan starting up the show this week. Massive yes chants piped into the Thunderdome. It was so clear that they were piped in. It obviously ends up with Daniel Bryan kind of coming out. He says that he basically feels like he should be the one challenging for the title, and he says that sort of he's always overlooked. It ends up with kind of Daniel Bryan noting that he won the Elimination Chamber for a third time. Bryan said that he's obviously realizing that it's important that he starts challenging for as soon as possible. It ends up kind of with Daniel Bryan just sort of hyping up the main event. This then leads up to Roman Reigns coming out with Jey Uso and Paul Heyman. What was your kind of thoughts of the Daniel Bryan promo up to the point before Roman came out?
So I have two things that I take from it is that there was passion, but botchy. I mean, you looked at it as well. I mean, with Daniel Bryan politely, there was this story that was being told of how he was like seen as like not so he doesn't have much ambition, apparently, according to people doing these surveys and stuff like that. But he realized that the Elimination Chamber, he has more ambition than anybody. It was just a bit random, to be brutally honest. I mean, I understood the points of where it was like he was kind of sick of putting people over and, you know, trying to push the next superstar, that his time, he's only got so much time left. That part I really enjoyed a bit, but there were certain parts of this that I just felt myself, it was a bit unnecessary. Just come out and say, I mean, even Michael Cole's question was a bit like, why do you want to go for the championship over the tag team match at Fastlane? It's like, well, he has a chance to main event WrestleMania. So really, there was a lot of problems with this, but what I would say is that I did like the passion that came through from Daniel Bryan on this promo, so it wasn't all bad.
Yeah, I think it's a passionate promo. It did go on and on and on. For me, I think it was okay. It kind of connects. I get the importance of it. But by the time Roman came out, I was just kind of burnt out by it. I thought that it's great to have passion, but that was kind of lost in translation by the time we got to Roman coming out. So kind of moving on then. So Roman Reigns comes out with Jey Uso, as I said. And what it ends up with is they kind of come out to the ring, gets a massive amount of boos. Reigns said that Bryan's the underdog, and he basically was bigging it up. Bryan went to speak and Jey kind of cut him down. It then ends up with kind of Bryan sort of taking a cheap shot on Jey, throwing him out the ring. And then obviously Roman just kind of looks on. What were your kind of thoughts of that? Did you enjoy the interaction between Bryan and Jey to lead to the main event?
I did. I mean, the thing is, the continuity from Jey Uso, obviously attacking Daniel Bryan last week, looking to try and do it this week. Daniel Bryan was a lot wiser this week and managed to avoid it, throwing Jey over the top rope. For me, Roman Reigns, I mean, his promo work is just on a different level. We've talked about it weeks and weeks, so I won't go into repeating what we've done previous times, but in my opinion, Roman saved this opening segment. I thought the way that he said, like, that you need to be in this position. And the fact is that you need wrestling, where I do it because wrestling typical heel work, and Roman's character now is just now down to a T, to the point that people thought that Roman couldn't talk a few years ago. Look at him now. He's in his element in this character.
It was definitely a contrast to last week where we had Jay kind of destroying Daniel, like in this kind of spot. It was very similar to last week's opening promo, but no, definitely. Moving on then. So we had the first match of the night. This is a flashback to last week. It's Montez Ford versus King Corbin. For me, this was okay. Obviously, Montez Ford lost the match when King Corbin got the end of days. And it just was filler, really. What were your thoughts of this match?
See, I must admit, it was filler, but what I would say is obviously because we were originally meant to have the tag match, wasn't we? It was meant to be a read from last week's Street Profits and Zayn and Corbin, and Corbin said he didn't want nothing to do with it. And I must admit, when I thought it was the tag match, I rolled my eyes. I was like, oh, we don't need to see this again. So the fact we got a singles match out of it, and the fact as well there was more conspiracy against Sami Zayn because he was the only one that wanted the tag team match, even though ironically the Street Profits are a team. They were quite happy to go singles action this week and just take on King Corbin on their own. So it kind of, in a way, it was refreshing, but it was a bit of a disappointment that Montez lost so quickly. But I mean, if you look at things, King Corbin here, King Corbin needs to keep up some credibility. I know he's not everybody's favorite wrestler, but he needs wins in places. He is the single star against a tag team wrestler. The right result prevailed here. And Sami Zayn, of course, causing a bit of a distraction that led to that end of days victory. And of course, then we got to the second match and Corbin didn't want to return the favour, did he?
No. So obviously going to the second match, Sami Zayn versus Angelo Dawkins. For me, this was okay. Some great moments in the match. I think obviously when Dawkins avoided the blue thunder bomb, I thought that was quite clever. In the end, Sami Zayn gets pinned. Dawkins get the win, so it's 50-50 booking. Kind of clever. For me, Sami Zayn at the moment, he's wearing on going to the 24/7, that type of level. He's falling so far down the card. And as much as he's a great athlete, I think this gimmick is not helping him. I think it's overstayed its welcome. I don't really know where the end game is with this team filming him all the time. It seems to be needless, and it's really sort of by the time we got to the end of this match, I just thought this is sort of half an hour of the show gone, and I'm not really excited. I wasn't really feeling it. I'm just a bit sick of them having to do match after match. It just doesn't seem to work for me. What were your thoughts of this match?
Again, it was sort of like it was a bit filler, really, of the spot. But for the fact that Sami Zayn, because we thought we were just getting a singles match and Sami Zayn wasn't involved at all. So the fact that Zayn got a match still, there was obviously time made for him. But I mean, look at it. Yeah, Sami Zayn, he was distracted because Ford went over to the camera crew and that led to the roll up. Fair enough for a victory. But I don't know if anyone really comes out of credibility, like you say, from this sort of segment, really. And Sami Zayn, what I would say is, I've enjoyed the camera crew, but like you said, I'm not quite sure what the end game is. It felt like, if anything, the story brewing here is nothing to do with the Street Profits. It's to do with King Corbin and Sami Zayn. We can't have heel versus heel going to WrestleMania. That's not a match I'm interested in seeing. But what I did take from it, and this is something that I wanted as a prediction going forward, we mentioned previously about a multi-man match at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. Big E, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Apollo Crews was mentioned on our last one. I wonder if we're going to get more people added to this match. And I can see Sami Zayn, a previous Intercontinental Champion. The crew are still wearing the T-shirts that he's meant to be the real Intercontinental Champion. King Corbin could be added to the mix as well. I wouldn't even be surprised if a ladder's thrown out, because WrestleMania, they usually like to throw in one here or there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's on one of the nights.
I agree. I think it's a good suggestion. I think the thing with it, where I kind of have the problem, is the Street Profits. Their feud is ultimately with the tag team champions. There was no interference from the tag team champions. There's no nothing. The next program is the Street Profits facing Rude and Ziggler. That wasn't there in any preference in this spot, which is the problem. But I agree with your points. I think it's interesting. They just need to give Sami some wins, because the conspiracy storyline, the longer it goes on, if this guy was on Raw, he'd be dealing with R-Truth now on Nemco. That's what I think. I think it's that far gone. But have you got anything else you want to add before we go to the next segment?
I mean, just to agree with you, really, I think, I mean, the storyline with Sami Zayn, it needs to have some layers to it. It needs to go a bit further in, because what I wanted to see, actually, and it's actually a good thing you've come back to me one more time, is I was thinking this week, there's got to be so much footage now. I want Sami Zayn to come and actually make a documentary and show us like a 2 or 3 minute kind of thing of how he's been screwed over the last couple of weeks or months, because I think that could be fun TV. It could perhaps get things to the next part of the story. But like you said, as for an end game, I'm not sure where it's going at the moment.
Definitely. We then had this random segment. We've got the returning Carmella there. Reginald's there this time with Carmella. It ends up with Carmella firing Reginald. She kind of basically spits sort of wine over him. And it just kind of obviously goes on and on and on. This was totally needless. For me, I thought that it's great that Carmella's back. No explanation where she's been. But I'm just sick of this. Is this a Reginald show or what? It's just, this is a total waste of time. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, this is something that's been coming. I mean, Carmella has teased it on the odd appearances that she's been on SmackDown the last month or month and a half. But what I would say is that, I mean, I'm going to call it now. Reginald is going to be with Sasha Banks in some sort of manager-heel dynamic. It seems quite blatantly obvious. I'm probably jumping ahead here. But, I mean, they obviously feel that Reginald will be a better fit for Sasha than for Carmella. I just feel sorry for Carmella because she's come back with this amazing new gimmick. She was put straight into the championship picture. She lost the championship match twice. And now she's lost, the sommelier as well in Reginald. And it kind of feels like, where does Carmella go from here? I think it's quite clear to see that Reginald has a path on SmackDown in some way. Like you say, it's almost like become the Reginald show. But Carmella should be the star of these two. And it's weird to see that she's not involved in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, I think she's like the spare part, just like Bailey as well. I don't want to go into that kind of, we'll probably go into that tangent later, but no, definitely. We then obviously had a match that's kind of following on from last week. We had Chad Gable versus Dominic Mysterio. This match was really, really solid. Dominic Mysterio got the rare windfall. And what were your kind of thoughts of the match?
I enjoyed it. I must admit, it's a match I've wanted to see since Survivor Series. I remember that random battle royale that was put on with the Raw and SmackDown guys, and both of these guys were in it. And I remember a lot of people saying on Twitter, Gable and Mysterio had such great exchanges in this battle royal, and it felt like we finally got this match. It wasn't long enough for my liking, but I mean, Chad Gable, what a wrestler. He's just amazing. I wish he was like just, a bit bigger in size, stature, height. The guy would be the next Kurt Angle because he's got the personality to do it as well. But he's booked like Charlie Haas because of his size, unfortunately. But looking at it, I think we got, the right victory. Dominic Mysterio, they need to start getting some momentum. But it was interesting what happened after the match with Rey Mysterio and Otis because that was kind of a bit random. Mysterio just kind of making the jump off to Otis to make sure that Otis doesn't get involved in there. It almost felt like, yes, the babyface is making the save, but the heel didn't even have a chance to get involved. So did Mysterio look like the heel here?
Yeah, I think the thing with it, in terms of the match itself, the match was good. I have to ignore the result because I'm really a massive fan of Chad Gable. So the fact he jobbed into Mysterio, I wasn't a fan of that. But in terms of the aftermath, as you said, this is very much like Matt Riddle and Lashley, where Matt Riddle was only able to get the one-upmanship when the back is turned or when it's just the cowardly way. But this obviously has been going on for a while now. I'm interested to see whether this leads to a further tag match. I'm really hoping we don't get it at Fastlane, but I just think this is just further filling up the SmackDown tag team division, which is probably a sensible move. Have you got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think we're getting a fatal four-way for the tag titles at WrestleMania. I think these two teams, the Profits and Ziggler, the Dirty Dogs, will be the four teams involved.
Yeah, no, good suggestion. I'd probably like to see that. We then had a random segment again, another one. Seth Rollins was backstage, and then he was going on about Cesaro. Never guess what? Murphy turns up. This is the Murphy that's been kind of in the Twilight Zone, has been missing for weeks and weeks and weeks. Totally turns up. No explanation where he's been, and he basically tries to plead to basically get his kind of roll back with Seth. It ends up kind of with them just organising a match with Murphy facing Cesaro later on. What were your thoughts to see Murphy back?
I was happy to see him back, but you've just hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I've actually been most looking forward to you discussing this because I thought myself, I know Georgie's got a rant waiting for me on this one. It just doesn't make any sense, does it? Let's be fair. I mean, if you'd have turned around and said there had been some sort of segment where Murphy comes into the camera and says, look, Aaliyah Mysterio dumped me. I've not been on TV. I've realized that my life without you, I've not been able to, work. I work much better as a disciple. I was much better under your guidance and leadership. Can I do this work for you? That would have told the story instantly. 30 seconds, job done. Unfortunately, this was missing. So in the end, it just kind of feels like, what the hell is Murphy doing? He spent like the whole of 2020 trying to get away from Seth. He kind of built himself off. He then was with the Mysterios. He's been missing for so long. And now he's back where he started. The only positive from this was Seth's suit.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, no, I think the thing with it is, obviously, as you said, Murphy was formerly with Seth. He did the babyface turn where he kind of saved the Mysterios from Seth. But to come back and he's back at round one like nothing's happened, it just doesn't make sense. Real mess by WWE. I'm sorry, the lack of detail, it didn't really connect for me. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go to the next part?
I think I'm ready for the next part.
Okay, so we've got this Bianca Belair versus Shayna Baszler match. This was quite a solid match. Obviously, Bianca Belair went over with a windfall. She got the Kid of Death Slam, got the pinfall she got a pinfall on Shayna there. Obviously, this is just kind of hyping up. Obviously, in the week, it was announced that we're going to have the same match that we saw at Elimination Chamber. The SmackDown Women's Tag Team titles are up again, exactly the same. So it'll be Shayna and Nia facing Bianca and Sasha. What were your kind of thoughts of this match?
I mean, you told me about this match, didn't you? That this news broke, I think it was like Thursday or Friday, This match was happening. And then obviously we learned the Fastlane match as well. And again, I rolled my eyes when I saw the Fastlane match. I was like, why have we got this again? I don't really need to see this match again. It was a bad idea doing it the first time. The fact as well, everyone's ringside again for this match. So we had Nia Jax ringside for Shayna. We had Sasha Banks ringside for Bianca. Reginald comes down as well. And of course, Reginald got himself in the way completely, caused Nia Jax to run into Sasha Banks, which caused the distraction for Bianca's victory. After the match as well, I mean, Bianca telling Sasha Banks that, you need to get rid of this guy. He's causing all the problems, which I think everyone at home is saying, yes, please, you're ruining this build to WrestleMania doing this storyline. And then obviously Sasha Banks slaps him as well. And it kind of feels like at this point, we've got Reginald out of the picture, but let's be serious here. I think this match has been put together purely because of the fact that they want to do what they should have done at Elimination Chamber to begin with, and that's caused the heel turn for Sasha Banks at that show to build up. And Reginald is probably going to be part of it as well. As for the match itself, yes, this is a placeholder to do what it needs to do, but goodness gracious me, couldn't we have done this a couple of weeks ago? This is becoming very messy.
Well done, Steve. You beat me to it. I was going to say the heel turn that I've been calling for 6 weeks now probably will come to fruition. But yeah, as I said, I don't really get the whole thing with Reginald. As we said, he's a spare part. This is a match. I don't know what the obsession is with them keep doing the women's champion against the women's tag team champions. It's just so monotonous. This is such a placeholder for this WrestleMania match between Sasha and Bianca. And I was disappointed to see that. I thought the match was okay, but when Reginald came out, the minute Reginald comes out, it just brings everything down for me. It just seems to be that the focus is on Reginald instead of building up sort of, that's your women's tag team champions, that's your Smackdown women's champion there. These belts are important. They shouldn't be subject to Reginald bringing it down to R-Truth level. That's what I think. I just think it's getting worse and worse week by week, really.
Absolutely, which is a WrestleMania main event as well. And we did get a comment in the comment section last week, and I think it was Don Mills that was the guys I want to give a shout out to, saying he was a fan of Reginald. And to be fair, I don't dislike Reginald as a person, as a performer. I just don't like him involved in every women's match. He should be involved. I know he was with Carmella as the Somalia and stuff like that. But what I would say is that Reginald, every time he's out in the ringside area, he's the focal point when it's all the women's division. And it's becoming, like you say, it's interfering with so many championships with a WrestleMania main event. Can't he just be with Carmella and they could have had a feud together with Bianca Belair leading to WrestleMania, or he done this turn earlier and that should be the Somalia for Sasha Banks, because the focus then goes on the match. The heel turn happened ages ago. The partnership happened with time to build to WrestleMania. By the time we get to the point that the focus goes on Sasha and Bianca, it's going to probably be just the match itself for a week or two before if we're not careful.
I agree. I've got two problems with this. I think the thing with it, Steve, as you said, is Reginald's getting slapped by Carmella. That's almost like he's a babyface then, yet he's going to be a heel with Sasha. It's contradiction there. The build-up is awful. It's pretty poor. And then when you look at this like this, he's just there all the time, and it's just so badly done. I just think there's too many 50-50 decisions here, and it just doesn't really help. Have you got anything else you want to add before we go forward?
One actually last little bit, actually, to think right now that the Women's Tag Team Championships are going to be up again at Fastlane, when right now they should be with Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah, I've got some news for you, Steve. Actually, I don't want to go on a totally different tangent, but this is a prediction now. I'll put this out there now. I think William Regal's announcement on NXT next week is going to be he's going to have an NXT Women's Tag Team division. I think he's going to set up their own belt. I think that's coming. So I think you may get them as your tag team champions soon, although I think Raquel probably is going to be destined for a singles push before we go back to SmackDown.
Absolutely. But I would say now that I think that's going to be a major mistake, and you can look to hear that in a video coming on my channel later on today. I'm
looking forward to hearing it. Please, everyone, check it out. So obviously we've got this match between Cesaro and Murphy. This was obviously a very quick match. They didn't get very much time. It was okay for what they did, but Cesaro crucially got the windfall. The push of Cesaro carries on, and he got the submission windfall. And obviously post-match, Rollins stood up and he applauded Cesaro, trying to basically bait him. This is clearly building to this match either at Fastlane or WrestleMania. What were your thoughts of the match?
I wish I had more time. Two fantastic workers. Say what we want about Murphy and what happened earlier in the evening. I'm a big fan of Murphy. I think he's a great in-ring talent. Him and Cesaro put on a great match for the time they had. It was interesting that Seth Rollins was ringside, despite the fact he wanted nothing to do with Murphy. But obviously they're there, like you say, to sarcastically applaud Cesaro after that amazing swing that was done there. It's building to a pay-per-view match. It's a filler week, unfortunately, for this feud. But at the moment, we'll have to see if it's going to be Fastlane or WrestleMania. Either way, the match itself, when it does go down, providing it's given the time it should be given, could potentially be a classic.
Definitely. We then had Reginald being shown backstage. He's looking like he wants sympathy. It turns out that he goes to Sasha Banks. She tells him to go away. and it ends up he runs into Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Shayna absolutely buries him, puts him down, and then Nia basically said he's cute. This is very similar to when Nia did the same to Angel Garza and it went nowhere. What were your kind of thoughts of Nia making a play on Reginald?
It almost come across a little bit that maybe she seems that she could find some use, maybe that he could be a manager or Somali for them for the time being. But for me, I don't buy it. I think the idea of this story right now is to say that Reginald and Sasha Banks, look, we're pulling that apart. That's not going to happen anymore. Forget about it. And then we're meant to get the shock at the pay-per-view. That's my prediction now. I don't think that's how it's going to go.
Do you think that... Oh, sorry, Steve. After you. Sorry, you broke up. After you, Steve. Gone.
I was just saying that I think that that's going to play out at the pay-per-view. I think they're trying to take the scent off of us right now. But I do think that at the same time, if they have written things off with Bianca and Sasha, all the power to it. I think he'll be better suited somewhere else in the card with someone else. If it was with the women's tag team champions, if it was with Carmella, I think that would be a better place right now than being involved in a WrestleMania main event.
Definitely. I think the thing is, it's interesting. I just hope they follow it up because they've done this before with Nia Jax, as I said earlier, with Angel Garza. That was what they did that once and they never followed it up. So they have to do something from it. I think the dynamic of Shayna hating him and Nia liking him, I think that could be something different. It brings some entertainment. But yeah, I just thought it was filler. Once again, Reginald's on the show, more appearances in 1 week than Aleister Black's had for 6 months. That kind of says it all, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, poor Aleister.
Yeah, poor Esther. Okay, moving forward, I know you've got a lot to talk about this next one. We're hearing from Apollo Crews. So Apollo Crews obviously makes his entrance. He's there with 2 people from the Truth Commission this week. It looks like they're back after not being seen since 1997. They're back there, and he's there obviously with his spear, and he's obviously going on about his heritage. He basically's got a new accent that's there, and he goes on about Biggie. The points of the promo, I think it was an okay promo. The accent definitely is a distraction for me. It's so different. I don't know what the purpose of the spear is. It didn't really work. And the fact you've got these 2 people kind of behind him, if they were a tag team that were going to debut down the line, I kind of get it. But if they're just 2 local talents standing in, they're not going to be there in 3 weeks' time. It's a total waste of time having this background of people that are not really going to be enforcers. What was your thoughts of this?
I agree with a lot of your points. I think you're spot on with a lot of things. I think a lot of good work was done last week, and I think some of it's been undone this week. I love the idea of Apollo Crews of having the power, the wealth, the aggression, this character side. And we have got a character out of Apollo Crews right now. But like you said, I found the accent change a bit distracting. I don't think it's necessarily needed. Early days into this story, so we have to wait and see how it's going to play out. But I am concerned that this could go down like an avenue that I wouldn't be a fan of.
Yeah, I think the thing with it is obviously it's going to lead to an Intercontinental title match either at Fastlane or maybe at WrestleMania. But I think the trouble with it, for me, if I was booking this, I think this week I would love to have seen Apollo come out with somebody like a JBL, somebody that can manage him, somebody of that higher caliber that's going to lift Apollo. But because Apollo was there and he was just ranting like a lunatic, a lot of the promo was lost in translation for me. It didn't really connect, although I do want to see him in the ring. I'm looking forward to seeing his performance. He's certainly more interesting than he has been previously. But the problem we'll have is if he doesn't keep this accent up for the next 6 or 7 months, it's going to look really ridiculous and it's going to really undersell the gimmick. What are your thoughts?
As well, I mean, like I say, it's a case of wait and see. But I mean, I think WWE could be treading a thin line here.
Definitely. Have you got any else you want to add before we go to the next one?
No, I'm all set, man.
Okay, we had a random Din Don Hello segment with Bayley. It kind of just basically says about Bayley putting herself over. She gets a tweet she doesn't like, she doesn't read it, and the segment ends. Total waste of time, really, in my opinion. I think Bayley's very, very talented. Ever since she's lost the belt to Sasha, she's never really recovered. And I think this just served no purpose. This was just a needless segment. What was your thoughts?
For me, I actually feel on the contrary. I'm a bit different side on this one because when she read that tweet and didn't read it to us, I thought myself, someone is over the other side of the door. It's building to a feud. Maybe we have a storyline leading to Bayley into WrestleMania. And I kind of hope she has a WrestleMania match because Bayley deserves it. Like you said, she's the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion. She's, someone that's fallen a bit down the pecking order, but she's someone that deserves a WrestleMania moment and a WrestleMania match. So I hope this is the start of building to something, even if it's a minor match on the card and perhaps a minor way of doing it. I kind of felt it's kind of one of those who is it segments.
I admire your optimism. There's nothing wrong with being positive. I really hope you're right. I think the thing with it is obviously since Bianca stopped that feud with Bianca stopped that feud with Bayley. Bayley stopped the feud with Bianca rather. She's not really done anything. For me, I hope she's not a spare part. I'd love to see her have a match at WrestleMania, but I'd rather see her in matches than these segments. These segments, particularly when she's only got 2 minutes, it's not really doing anything for me. Have you got anything else you want to add?
No, I can understand that. I mean, the thing is, it's also very likely that perhaps that tweet is from Billy Kay asking to be a tag team partner.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. We then obviously had this next segment. It was kind of Corey Graves. He was standing inside the steel cage. He was explaining to everybody that's never seen a steel cage match before how a steel cage match works. I found it really interesting. I've never seen a steel cage match before. What was your thoughts?
Hey, look, we've seen it all before, but there's always new fans that might be checking out for the first time. So I understand the idea of it. And to be fair, respect to the steel cage, because as well, we don't really see as many of them in recent times. I must admit, I got a little bit desensitized to steel cage matches for a long time, because obviously the Elimination Chamber, Hell in a Cell came along, and they just seemed more important than steel cage matches. They felt like the vanilla kind of cage match that you could have. But at the same time, I think they have a good placeholder on weekly TV. If you want to settle a feud or do something that is a bit different, I think a steel cage match works. And it's the first time we've had one this year, but the last time we had one was at the end of last year. So we are starting to get them slightly more frequently on SmackDown. I don't think this is a bad thing. Even though, like you say, it's not perhaps necessary for long-term fans, it could be someone watching for the first time. So, I think it's good of giving some importance to what they're about to walk into.
I definitely think it's good to do the hype. It certainly creates some sort of intrepidation and some sort of hype. I get that. That's really, really good. And there's nothing wrong with it. I wouldn't say it did any harm. I just thought it was quite comedic. Have you got anything else you want to add before we break down this main event?
I know. Let's break down the main event.
Okay, this is a steel cage match. If Daniel Bryan wins, he'll get a sort of shot at Fastlane. Daniel Bryan, Jey Uso. Obviously, this was a really, really good match. Loads of very good moments. They got a lot of time. I think I quite like the way that it was at the top of the cage. It looked like at times they were going to fall off. Jey was very offensive, but in the end, Bryan hits a butterfly suplex off the top rope, and he then gets the yes-lot submission on the injured left arm. Jey got his hand under the bottom rope. There was no rope break, and Jey tapped out. And in the end, sort of SmackDown went off with Daniel Bryan celebrating. Roman stands sitting there looking very unhappy. What were your thoughts of the match?
Great cage match. Really enjoyed it. I think it was really well put together. I love the fact that the focus again was put on Daniel Bryan's knee after the Elimination Chamber, continuity. I love the fact the focus was put on Jay's arm. And Jay was put in a position, wasn't he, from Roman Reigns in a very brief moment backstage earlier in the evening, saying that you can't let the family down. You can't let me down if you're going to lose this match. And of course, Jay had no choice, because he did get himself to the ring ropes. But of course, rope breaks don't count in cage matches. Jey Uso was left with no option. He had to tap out. So for me, I thought that this was a very good cage match. I thought it was a very good main event. One thing that I do find interesting as well, like you said, Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, both on the outside there. Did you know that every single match this week had someone watching from ringside?
Wow, I didn't know that. That's a good observation. I need to pay more attention. No, excellent. That's really, really interesting. Have you got anything else you want to add about the main event before we give the show a final score, and then we'll hit this news?
I'm sort of ready to move on. Really, I think it was a great visual at the end of the show with Daniel Bryan giving the yes movement to the Thunderdome. They're really trying to push Daniel Bryan in some positive direction. I just hope he just doesn't lose at Fastlane and then has no WrestleMania direction at all. I hope he gets some direction in some way.
Definitely. My kind of final thoughts for the show and score. I thought it was a solid show. There was a lot of stuff I didn't really like, but that main event made up for it. In terms of stuff that I thought that was good, the main event was solid. I think they did a great job of kind of getting Apollo on camera, although the gimmick's a bit interesting. I think the lack of Kevin Owens' lack of edge was probably a mistake. I think that was missing this week. Kevin Owens hasn't been seen for 2 weeks. There's no explanation now. That's kind of intriguing. In terms of a score for me, I'd go for 7 out of 10. What was your score and final thoughts?
I've actually gone for a 6 out of 10 because, like I said, the main event saved the show. I was going for about a 5 or somewhere around there before, but I just feel that this week wasn't the strongest week. There was some good in-ring action. That's what I'd say. In-ring stuff was pretty good, but a lot of the story side of things didn't make a lot of sense. And like you said, we're building towards WrestleMania. Edge needs to be on this show. He's been shown on these couple of video packages throughout the show, the fact that he's picking and pointing at the sign, causing for Daniel Bryan, but it feels that the whole focus is on Fastlane, Daniel Bryan, Roman Reigns, and we're that close to WrestleMania. There's only a couple of weeks after Fastlane until WrestleMania. We need to get the focus on Mania. So I hope Fastlane is going to be a short show. I hope it's going to be, you remember like those old In Your House for like 2 hours long? I hope it's going to go to that sort of direction. 5 matches, that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And let's just do that and focus fully on WrestleMania going forward.
Definitely. I think they created a very good main event for Fastlane. Obviously, back in Fastlane 2015, Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan had a match. If it's anything as good as that, I'm looking forward to seeing this match. Even if we know who the winner is of this match, it's still going to be fun. Have you got anything else you want to add before we hit this news and end the podcast?
No, I'm set to move on.
Okay, we've got a couple of bits of news, so I'm going to go for one I'm not so sure if you're aware of, Steve. There was a report this week that NXT Takeover going into WrestleMania is going to be over 2 nights, Wednesday and Thursday, apparently on the 7th of April and 8th of April. What are your kind of thoughts of a 2-night takeover?
Well, one of them would be on the regular Wednesday TV slot, and the second one apparently is meant to be on the network. And so, yeah, I can see why it would make sense. It would give everyone a feel to be on some form of takeover. And of course, the heavy rumor as well is that will be the last Wednesday NXT will be on TV. They're going to be expected to move to Tuesdays after WrestleMania. So for me, this would be a great way to go out of a bang. They probably would love to win that last Wednesday in the war. That's the intention, isn't it? And of course, I'm sure AEW would love to counter that by putting Shaq or someone in some format to try and counter it. But no, I mean, when it comes to WrestleMania week, I think it'd be quite cool. And there's enough talent in NXT to make a 2-night takeover. It's a special time. Why not? I'm down for it. Takeovers are always awesome.
Definitely. It'll get far more people on the shows as well, which would be good. It'll be interesting to see whether they have the NXT title over 2 nights maybe as well, which will be fun. But yeah, I'm a massive fan of that. Have you got anything else you want to add on that news, or we'll go forward to the next bit?
No, set to go forward.
Okay, so the next bit of news, we've got heard a rumor today. I heard a rumor. Apparently, Triple H is coming back to this year's WrestleMania. There is early talk that he wants to work with either Christian or AJ Styles. Apparently, that's kind of what I heard today. Would you be a fan of him being on Mania this year? And does he excite you, or is this something where it's not really going to do much for you? What's your thoughts?
I'm a big fan of Triple H, and Triple H can still go. So Triple H has the look of a star. He feels like a star. Every time he's in WrestleMania these days, he puts someone over as well. So whether it's AJ Styles, which I think would be a fantastic match, I think some people would consider that a dream match. Christian would be interesting as well, providing that he's not turning up on another show. I know there's been conflicting reports on the situation with that. I'm of belief he will be on WrestleMania personally. But yeah, I mean, I'd be down for either match personally. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick AJ Styles.
That'd be a great match for all time. AJ Styles, Triple H. I don't think we've ever seen it. I think it'll be fun, and I think it would be it would feel WrestleMania worthy. That's for sure, wouldn't it?
Absolutely,
definitely. Have you got any else you want to add before we go to the next bit of news?
No, we can all go to the next bit of news.
Okay, apparently Vince McMahon this week has decided that WrestleMania needs to be bigger, and he's apparently going to get rid of a lot of the original ideas. It looks like at the moment the only things that are kind of set are the main event. Are you excited by Vince McMahon kind of being so sort of unorganized? Does it excite you, or do you think this year's WrestleMania is going to suffer because of it?
The build always suffers. In recent years, I know that you and I have had conversations on multiple different podcasts when we've talked and said, oh, it feels like the worst build every year. And, it seems to always get worse and worse sometimes year in, year out. And I do feel that, Kurt Angle actually said on his podcast, I'm not sure if it was this week, but very recently, that when his second stint in WWE, he realized that it was so different to when he was around the first time, where WrestleMania is the latest the card was made was December. You had time for everything to build and grow. You knew where you were going as a direction, where nowadays he said he felt that the last one he was on, which was WrestleMania 35, not everything was fully in place until the week of the show. You can't build a great show that way. But what I can say in conflicting of that, WrestleMania 17, our favorite show of all time, Kurt Angle was actually put in a match with Chris Benoit, and that was only made with 6 days notice to WrestleMania 17. And that was one of the shows stealing on that card. So it can work both ways. But from purists like you and me who like to see a story, like to see long-term build, it suffers from that point of view. But as long as we get a good show come WrestleMania, I'm sure neither of us will complain.
Definitely. And the last thing for today's podcast, before we close the show off, obviously going to go into AEW. AEW tomorrow night on pay-per-view. Really excited for the Revolution pay-per-view. Going to go to what everyone's kind of talking about. We've got 2 mystery people apparently debuting. And I'm gonna kind of go to. I'll let you go first, Steve. Who's your kind of final prediction of both? Let's see if it's similar to what I say.
Well, I've done videos on both, and I've made predictions on them, so I had best stick with them. For the ladder match, I am going with Ethan Page. I think that he is a free agent. He's a solid worker. Since his time from Impact, we've heard nothing from him. I think he would be in the perfect part of the card as well if he goes for the TNT Championship. Ethan Page is a heck of a talent and a lot to offer. As for the other, the big signing, if you want, everyone wants Brock. Everyone wants Punk, Batista, Cena, Angle. These are not. There is perhaps a small outside that maybe Angle could be one of them. I don't see some of the other ones there. From heart, I want CM Punk. I don't see it happening, though. I think it's going to be Rob Van Dam. And I know that it's not your favorite choice, but I think it's a more realistic choice. If you look at the people that have been coming as big signings recently, the last big acquisitions are The Big Show and Sting. You know, if they were coming into WWE and seeing that, people wouldn't be reacting the same. So I'm going to go for RVD, because RVD, he was in Impact last year. He could still go. He's a great athlete. He's one of the most innovative wrestlers of all time. And I think he could offer something to AEW.
Yeah, I really like your opinion. I think it's interesting. I think it's sensible as well. I really think you've made some sensible statements. I'd agree with you. In terms of the ladder match, we got it down to 1 or 2, I have personally. It's either going to be, as you said, Ethan Page. That's a very good shout. Great worker. Ever since his work in Impact, where he was facing himself, I think he's not done much. So I think it'd be great to see him on AEW. The other one I'm going to say is a long shot. I've got another one of 2 people that I could say, and that would either be Chris Hero. There's a lot of hype regarding Chris Hero. He's done a lot of podcasts recently with Conrad. Conrad Thompson seems to have a massive connection with AEW. So Chris Hero could be a good cameo. And the other one is Nick Aldis. I think Nick Aldis, he's a great worker. I know NWA Power's coming back. They want to get NWA Power kind of over. I think they're going to have some sort of connection with AEW. They already work with AEW with Thunder Rosa. So I think that could be a potential. Would you be excited by either one of them 2 people?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Hero, a lot of people are quite a big fan of him. I must say, he's one wrestler I've never fully connected with. But obviously, like you said, there is a link there with Conrad Thompson. If it was to come in, I mean, you know, he would have a chance to be on a sort of big platform. He's never really had that chance like in WWE full time. He's been NXT, no higher. So that would be good for him to see. Nick Aldis, I can see the NWA link, definitely, because like you say, I mean, if the forbidden door is open, who knows what's up the sleeve? There could be someone from New Japan. There could be someone from Impact. Could be someone from anywhere. So there are, the possibilities are endless. And I've done, like I say, I've done a video on this of 10 potentials that it could be. It would be interesting and exciting to see. But NWA, certainly, they have a working relationship. The fact that they're coming back together in some format, I wouldn't be surprised if someone from the NWA roster was to come in and make a cameo appearance. But I do sort of hope it would be someone that's there long term. So either Chris Hero of your predictions or Ethan Page of mine, I think I'd be more in favour of.
Definitely. In terms of my mystery man for the new signing, I've got it down to kind of 1 or 2. I'm going to put this out there now. I don't see it being Brock Lesnar. I don't see it being CM Punk. I think the thing is, it's money. The amount of money it will cost Brock Lesnar to come in, I just don't see it happening. I think it's very unrealistic. The fans want it to happen. I might be wrong, but I can't see it. I think if Brock Lesnar was coming in, they wouldn't be hyping it with 1 week to go to the pay-per-view. This would have been hyped for months and months and months. And with CM Punk, although he was talking to AEW originally when it was launched, I just don't see CM Punk coming in. So that leaves it to me. I'm going to go for Kurt Angle. I think it'll leave. I think Kurt Angle for me, although it's somebody that apparently is under 50, that's just kind of rumored. Kurt Angle obviously is in there with Conrad Thompson as well. And I just think I always with this type of things, it never delivers what we think. So let's look at it before. Last time Tony Khan said this is an earth-shattering signing, it was Pac. Everyone wants Brock Lesnar and CM Punk. We're not going to get them, I don't think. So I think we're going to get Kurt Angle. Would you be happy if it's Angle, or would that be a bit disappointing?
I'd be very happy with this Angle. I mean, you have to look at his last match was WrestleMania 35 against, Baron Corbin. Many people were disappointed by that. I think Kurt has come out and said that he wasn't overly happy with his last run in WWE. I can be wrong, but I have heard that off somewhere recently. And perhaps he would have a chance to face people and have finish his career on his own terms. Can you imagine matches like Angle against Omega and Cody and people like that? Especially, it looks like Kurt Angle, if you follow him on Instagram, he's got in such great condition. I think he could do a couple of great matches. I think there is a potential that would be there. I would be pleased to see it. I think Kurt can definitely still offer something. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it'd be great. His name value as well would help. And if they are going to use these people for dark elevation as well, I mean, what better, for these younger people to be working with than someone like a Kurt Angle? That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. I think the thing with it is we have to sort of do a bit of logical stuff. It's obviously going to be nobody that's under contract to WWE. That doesn't really leave a lot of free agents, does it? Unless it's going to be somebody of a legend status like a Mick Foley, a Bret Hart or something like that. This is somebody that Tony Khan said that's going to be able to work. So I think that kind of eliminates Bret Hart straight away. I think Mick Foley, he's not going to want to work in a schedule. And the problem with it is there's not that many free agents. So I think RVD's a good guess. I think Kurt Angle's a good guess. But either way, very clever from AEW hyping this up. I just really hope that if it isn't somebody that's not a Brock Lesnar or CM Punk, that it takes away from this fantastic pay-per-view behind me this coming Sunday.
Absolutely, indeed. I've got one more shout potentially as a backup for the ladder match.
Go for it.
Carlito.
Oh, imagine that. Yeah, no. I could see that maybe. Would you be a fan of him coming in? It'll certainly get people talking.
For that level of the card, yes. If it was your major signing coming in and the major Hall of Fame sort of superstar, I'd be disappointed. But for the ladder match, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
I think the thing with it as well is if it's not sort of Kurt Angle and Christian's available for me, I think Christian's the biggest one they can get. So if they do get Christian, that would generally get me shots. I think it will be a fantastic signing. But I'm excited by this. This is a fair reason to go out and get the pay-per-view. And I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Are you looking forward to kind of watching it?
Yeah, I feel this pay-per-view has been built very well. There's certainly things for everyone on there. Arguably could be one or two matches that are not for everybody on this card. But what I'd say is it's got people talking, hasn't it? And that's what's really exciting about this, because we've not even talked about the Casino Tag Team Royale, and that's built like a Tag Team Royal Rumble. There could be a surprise or two in there as well. So, I mean, there's lots of things that could be twists and turns on this show. I think potentially WWE's best show of all time if it goes all to plan.
Definitely. Before we end the podcast today, please tell everyone about your great channel and the content you've got coming up in the coming days, please.
Thank you very much. As always, SCW, the wrestling channel, is on YouTube. Of course, it's also on Spotify and podcast platforms as well. The Q&A will be coming tomorrow. Today is all about NXT. I've already done 5 superstars that should go from WWE back to NXT. And of course, a couple of the expected names, but there's one or two that I think would surprise you. Maybe one that'd be controversial as well. Also coming up as well will be a preview of NXT this coming week, which is basically fantasy booking Finn Balor, Adam Cole, the build to that rumoured takeover. Do touch on the idea as well about tag team championships in NXT also for the women's division, if that is going to be a case. And also, there'll be other videos coming next week. Impact Sacrifices next week, some predictions for that. So an AEW Revolution, I'll do predictions that already have on the channel, but we've got the review coming up on Monday as well. So it's very, very busy. I recommend just go over, subscribe so you can keep up to date with what's going on as it comes out. It's a lot quicker than actually me telling everyone.
I highly recommend everyone checks out his channel. His channel is absolutely fantastic. In terms of content from me, we're going to have a review of AEW on Monday. That will drop. Me and Steve that did the Elimination Chamber. We're doing a review of that show. We'll probably have a Raw review next week, as always, with yourself, Steve, as always. And as I said, it's just been recent fun. Obviously, I really appreciate all the recent subs to the channel. We're well on the road to 70, which is fantastic. And if you've enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. Please be so kind to leave a comment. And please sub. I really hope you will enjoy the AEW pay-per-view tomorrow. And let us know in the comments below, who is the mystery man? I want to hear your views. Let's see if you're right or if I'm right or Steve's right. Let's see if all. But thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Thank you very much. All the best. Bye-bye.